Hey, special educators. Welcome to Teach, Taskbox, Inspire, the podcast dedicated to making your job as a special education teacher easier by making your instruction more fun for you and your students. Inside each episode, you'll learn how to get the most use out of your task boxes in the classroom. I'm your host, Lisa Hollady from Chalkboard Superhero, a veteran special education teacher passionate about empowering you with purposeful teaching strategies, helpful tips and tricks, and other classroom management tools that will help you thrive in your role. Let's get started with today's episode. Hey there, special educators, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I'm your host, Lisa Hollady, and today we're talking about one of the most important and often overlooked aspects of setting up your classroom for success: training your paraprofessionals. Here's the truth. You can have the most beautiful classroom, the best visuals, the clearest IEP goals, and the most engaging task boxes. But if your paras aren't trained and on board, nothing runs the way it should. So today, we're going to talk about why you need to prioritize para training before the first day of school, what to teach your paras and what not to assume, how to build buy-in and trust, and a few real-life systems that will help you lead your team with confidence. Whether you have one paraprofessional or 5, this episode will help you build a team that supports students and each other. All right, first, why paraprofessional training is not optional. Here's what we need to remember. Paraprofessionals are not mind readers, and they're not always trained educators either. Some paraprofessionals come in with years of experience. Others are brand new off the street with no idea what prompting is, data collection, or behavior reinforcement even means. So if you don't take time to train them from day one, they're going to default to over-prompting, doing the work for the student, asking you for help constantly, or sitting back entirely, unsure of what to do, or maybe they don't care and they're just going to sit back anyways. But none of this is their fault. It's our job to set clear expectations, teach them strategies, and build confidence so they can do what they were hired to do: support students. All right, so you might be like, all right, Lisa, what am I going to teach my paraprofessionals before school starts? If you have the chance to meet with your paras before the first day, even for 30 minutes, use that time intentionally. I know some of you are like, I don't even know who my para are because I don't meet them until the first day of school. But here's what I recommend covering on day one, right? Number 1, the schedule. You need to tell them where they need to be, when they're working with small groups or maybe with one-to-ones, and who they're supporting and how they are supporting. Give them a printed or digital copy, color code it, label transitions. Don't assume they'll remember all of these verbal instructions. Sometimes I even make them little tiny schedules and I print them up and laminate them and I put little holes in them and I tell them to wear them on their lanyard so that they have the schedule at all times, especially those first few weeks of school. The second thing I go over are roles and responsibilities. You can't be any clearer with these. Who is running a center? Who manages the behavior? Who's collecting the data? Who supports students during inclusion time? Who is going to make the copies? Who's going to be sharpening the pencils? Who's going to be setting up the task boxes? Like, legit, you should have all of these things written down for you very clearly, and they need to be able to see this. So maybe you need to have a little binder for them or a folder to make for them because they kind of need to know all of this stuff. Be honest about what you need from them and what you'll take responsibility for as well. All right, the next thing that I want you to go over are basically student basics, right? So you want to give them, and I keep talking about an IEP at a glance over and over in every episode, but you want to give them that kind of snapshot, right? Their strengths, their triggers, any behavior plans, communication methods, reinforcement systems. I usually give them a photo on this so that they know what the student looks like before the first day of school. You really want to help them get to know the student as a person, not just what it looks like on the IEP. The fourth thing I want you to go over, and this is really important, is prompting and fading. I want you to teach your paras the basics of a prompting hierarchy. If not, just basic prompting and how to fade that support over time. Use real life examples, model it for them, pretend they're the student and you are the paraprofessional. You want to show them exactly what to do. If you don't train this early, paraprofessionals will either hover over those students or disengage with them, both of which can hurt independence. All right, the next thing I want you to train them on is behavior support. You are going to want to show them how to redirect calmly, how to use all of the visuals in the room, how to offer breaks when necessary, how to take data or track behavior when needed, or let them know where to find these data sheets in the room. You want to let them know when they should step in and when they should call on you, because you can't always be the one putting out fires. They also have to step up and do these jobs as well. Let's talk about tools that make paraprofessional training easier. So I talked about this a little bit earlier, but starting a para binder, and it can be a folder, but you really want to include that daily schedule, especially the one that I was talking about that I put on the paraprofessionals lanyard. You want to talk about that schedule. You want to put in that binder the behavior cheat sheets, what the prompting hierarchy looks like, any data collection forms that they might need, any reinforcement systems, any visual aids that are super quick that they can kind of pull out. I also have visual aids that I use on our lanyards as well. Quick student profiles, those IEP at a glances. This kind of becomes their go-to guide. And if you have multiple paraprofessionals in your classroom, I like to have a little mailbox for them because I am constantly keeping things in there or handing things out for them to read or to do. I often will have to-do lists and I'll just kind of throw it in their mailboxes. And that's kind of where they keep this binder. All right. Center instructions. You want to set up a few reusable laminated center instruction cards or even posters around the room. That way paraprofessionals know exactly what to do at each center, even when you're not in the classroom. There's going to be so many times when you're pulled out either for conferences or you're sick or maybe you're taking a mental health day, but you're not going to be in the classroom to always tell them what to do. And so having these instructions in each center really helps paraprofessionals know what they're supposed to be doing. I also love this for when we have subs in the room. And I know you know what I'm talking about because we always have subs in our classrooms. And so no matter where they are in the classroom, they know what they should be doing. You also want to create mini visuals that your paras can kind of use to prompt without talking. So these are great for transitions or redirections or even giving nonverbal students a consistent way to access support. All right, so let's talk about building that buy-in and respect on day one. So training your paraprofessionals isn't just about logistics. It's about creating a team culture, especially if you have more than one. So number one, you want to include them in the conversation. Ask for their input. Debrief after lessons. Listen to their observations. Make them feel heard. If you don't, and you are just like this dictator telling them what to do day in and day out, they're not going to be listened. You want the buy-in, so include them in the conversation. Number two, celebrate their wins. Now, I know this sounds absolutely stupid, but I want you to notice when they do something well and say it. A simple, wow, thanks for stepping in during that meltdown. It goes a long way. Or, I really like the language you used with Danny today. That is exactly how I would have said it. Things like that. People want to know when they're doing a good job. So using verbal praise for adults is so helpful. Number three is grow together. I want you to model best practices and offer gentle feedback. So sometimes you do see and hear things that you're like, oh, that's not what I would have said. Or, ooh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. You want to go over and say, hey, let's try giving less verbal prompting next time and see if she can complete it with the visual alone. Let's go to number 4. Be human. Check in on them. Laugh with them. Connect with them. Don't just lead. They're human people. Because when your paraprofessionals feel supported, your classrooms run better. Ask about their home life. Ask about their children. Ask about their husband or what they're doing over the weekend. Even if you do not care about their lives. Maybe you're on the autism spectrum and you could care less. Check in on them. Just listen. They want to be heard. Once they actually feel like they have a connection, they'll do better. All right, so kind of final thoughts. Training your paraprofessionals right from day one is one of the best investments you can make in your classroom. It builds consistency, it promotes independence for your students, and it takes so much pressure off of you. And don't wait for problems to arise. Train your team early, clearly, and with intention. Because when your adults are confident, your kids will feel safe. Thanks so much for joining me in today's episode. I really hope you leave this episode feeling more prepared to lead your paraprofessionals with structure, support, and confidence. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I hope you've gained some tips and motivation to fuel your week ahead. If you're ready to explore more strategies for empowering your students as independent learners, be sure to dive into my free training at chalkboardsuperhero.com/training. And don't keep all this knowledge to yourself. Share this episode with your special education teacher friends who could use some motivation and inspiration. One more thing before you go. If you're finding this podcast helpful and want to show support, head to Apple Podcasts and leave your rating and review. Until next time, keep teaching, taskboxing, and inspiring.